Again, thank you to the Gewaldige staff over here. As you know, this is all volunteers here. No one's being drafted, and they've been doing this for quite a while. It's just really the whole Matzav Ruach here in Yeshiva Sar Yitzchak. People really do things for each other, and that's what makes it special. We also have Uncle Yankel back, and that's very special. A lot of people have been asking about you.
I missed you for 2 weeks.
That's right.
But don't put that on the record.
Okay. I think that's... Okay, we'll negotiate that. Okay, shkayach. So, the story goes like this. There was a Paritz who's driving by a town, and he sees that there is a fight going on in the town. And the fight is who should become Rav, as has happened in the history of Klal Yisrael, unfortunately. Which is the reason that we're still in Galus. And there's a big fight, who should become Rav, and the Paritz says, I decide all disputes. So now that we're really in trouble. It was up to the Paritz to decide who's going to be Rav. So they try to tell the Paritz, like the local squire, how are you going to decide who's going to be Rav? Like, leave it to me. So he sits down in front of the two candidates, and he makes a request for a siddur, a Jewish prayer book. And they bring the siddur, and the Paritz is going to make an estimation. He's going to see, look, let me see who does a better job at saying the words. And, I figure I can do that. Let me see who does a better job at saying the words. Okay. So he opens up the siddur, and as the first candidate, his mazel was, he opens up to Ashrei. So the first candidate says, Paritz says, sounds good. And he calls the next guy, turns the pages, turns to the Yoitzris for Shuas. And the poor guy is like, Paritz says, first guy is the Rav. They try to explain that the Paritz is not fair. Don't tell me that Midas finished the Tzayla Kamasas. You know what I mean? Can't pull the wool over my eyes. So they picked the first guy, never to be Rav. So that's what they say. They told Rabbi Yitzchak Khan the story. They said, Paritz was right. The first guy should have been Rav. This is what he mean, but it wasn't fair. It wasn't fair as far as the second guy goes, because he says, a Rav has to have Seichel. And the second guy didn't have Seichel. So why didn't he have Seichel? He goes, tell me something. Why couldn't the second guy go, Who would have known? The Rav, they couldn't figure that out on his own. Maybe he doesn't belong to be Rav, especially if he's going to have to deal with that kind of a Paritz. When we say they were forherring the Balabatim, were forherring candidates for Rav. So one of them asked the Shaila, what was the Moiled last Chodesh? So he goes, 3 hours, 4 chalakim, 2 minutes after 2. Right? Walks away. Finally says, how did you know that? He goes, he didn't. But I figured he doesn't know either, so... Okay. I remember once when someone told me he was taking the driving test. So when you renew your license, so you have to go and they give you the chart to read. So he said he was on the line, and they asked the first person, what does it say on the third line? He goes, RXLBE. Next guy, RXLBE. Next guy, RXLBE. Okay, stop. No, don't come close. Stand it. What does it say? RXLBE. He says, you didn't even look. I said, pretty much heard it 10 times. He said, I guess it's a hearing test, not a think test. That's l'chayra what it is. Okay, so Maisa Shahaya Kachaya. You know that on Purim, there's an inyan to eat kreplach, which is a piece of meat that is surrounded by dough, and there is also an inyan to eat what's called the Yiddish chalupshkes. Other people refer to it as stuffed cabbage. Has to have a good ashgach. You got to check that cabbage and the meat. But that's the minig, and the minig is because the meat is covered by all sorts of things. So let me share with you an experience that I have today, and you tell me if it's valid or not. I went to a yeshiva today in the spirit of Purim, and I dressed myself up like a quote Rebbe, unquote. Okay? And it was the full 9 yards. I had a very Rebbish flowered bekisha with the fur collar. You know, the fur collar, that guarantees the Ruach HaKodesh. That's like that's the transmitter that takes it down. You know, you don't get it, not for that. And it was really a couple of people helped me with this thing. And you know, the checkerboard pants, which is called Gefeffe to Heusen. You knew that, right, Moshe? It's called Gefeffe to Heusen, right? Right. And right, great, the Shabbos you have disconnected, yeah. And you know, managed to strammel, and I had these thick gekrazel takayas that were kind of pinned on, and really the white socks. And I also had from my class a bunch of gaboim that came, and we trained them how you scream machzov, you know, wake up. You know, the trick is you got to walk in there and boom, push everyone aside. The Rebbe should pass, and if there's nobody there, you slap them there to push them aside. You gotta know how to do it. Okay. Right, so we had it all done, and I got up there and I sat down, you know, and I spoke to the kids and gave them a bracha. Then I gave out humatashin, and they figured out who it was after a while, and we had a good time. So right afterwards, and I got to tell you that these things are dangerous, okay? Because when you put them on, you know, and then it says, okay, the charade is over, got to take it off now. What? Got to take it off. You know, you don't really want to take it off so much. Why do I have to take it off so fast? Like, you know, feels pretty good over here. So this guy comes over to me, and he tells me something that he says. He quoted it from the Havas Yisrael, one of the previous visions to Rabbis, and he said that the Havas Yisrael said like this. This is what he tells me, okay? Just listening to the quote. He says, you take a piece of meat, you put it into a cabbage, it becomes stuffed cabbage. It's not meat anymore. It becomes chalushkas. You take a piece of meat, you put it into dough, it becomes a krepel. It's no longer meat. He said, you take a piece of meat, you put it into a bakasha, it becomes a rebbe. That's what he said. I said, thanks, really, I really appreciate that one, you know. I said, I don't think that's such a nice thing to say. He said, I only say it to you. Oh, shkoyach, that's even better. So I asked a few friends of mine, Vishnitzer Hasidim, and I said that, you know, is that such a member from the Havas Yisrael, who, by the way, was known as one of the most gentle, sweetest people around. It sounds a little abrasive, although everything has its place. So someone told me, yeah, that there is such a member from him, and that there's even a story behind it, that there was a yid who was a Schachter, a big Erlich yid, and he had no parnasa, he lost his parnasa, he had to marry off daughters. He said, Rebbe, what do I do? So the Rebbe told him, become a Rebbe. So he said, well, what button do you have to press? Like, you know, where's the driving test to become a Rebbe? What do you have to do? So the Havas Yisrael gave him his bekesh, gave him one of his robes, and said, just wear it. And he was called, I think he told me, the Piolner Rebbe, if I'm pronouncing it right. And people had many brachas from him. There was only one problem. He got these gaboim that were taking all the money, and he came back to the Rebbe. He said, at the end, I don't have any money anyway, so you may as well take back your bekesh, he said. So that's when he told him that word. The sons of Rav once told his gabbai that in Shemayim there is a golden chair for an erlich gabbai. And he took that as a compliment. And then the sons of Rav told him that since Sheshis Yemei Bereishis, they're waiting to take the dust off it so that someone can sit on. So, I want to put this in perspective, and I think that what the Havas Yisrael said is actually a compliment, if you understand it. He did not mean it as a criticism. And let's first approach it from this angle. So the story goes, this guy comes home, and he can't wait for stuffed cabbage. He loves stuffed cabbage. And right away before Purim, he starts peeking in the freezer and the refrigerator, and his wife is always worried that by the time the Purim Suda comes along, he's going to indulge in the mitzvah of Tayamel Chaim Zachu to the point where there will be nothing left. You know, as you even out the cabbage. You know, Zugo is not up here, do it. You know, the 72, that's chesed, you know, you have to make it down to chai, you have to do it 3 times chai. You gotta, scared will engage in some Kabbalistic actions, where as a result, you know, they say that Makubal came and they were bringing him, said he has very big kavanas, and they kept bringing him more kugel, he kept saying, Yesh liot kavanot, ten liot kugel, you know, my kavanas aren't over here, let's go, keep it going. Alright, so he comes home finally for the Purim Suda, And he's looking around, and he's getting a little over anxious. You know, the chavivas for the mitzvah. What does it say about the barditcheva that he mamish broke the glass? He was so anxious to get the esrig. So he was like at that same point, you know, for these chalachkas, these stuffed cabbage. He's like his wife says, "Hey, they don't slow down." So finally she goes, and he's looking to see where she hid it, and she hid it mamish by the svarim shank, behind the shas. He says, "Are you out of your mind? That's where you hide it?" She said, "I had to put it in a place where I knew you wouldn't find it," she said. I knew you wouldn't look there. So having said that, I wake up this morning, and my 9-year-old daughter, you know, wanted to remind me that she needs $12 for a trip someplace.
Yeah, I get it.
Right, to go snow tubing. Why they go snow tubing now? I don't know. But I said, fine, no problem. And but now, okay, you know, it's very hard to give money when they ask you for it. You always say soon, you know, you say,
come back in 5 minutes.
Right, come back, you know. The grocery man told me a guy comes in once and pays him up with cash. He says, but hold it for 2 days before you put it in. Okay, you know, it's already, it's easier for me to give it away that way. That's hard. So, anyway, so I come and I find a pin, like a magnet on the refrigerator. It says, Tati, please put $12 in this envelope. So I said, I put in the $12. And then I said to her, how did you know I was going to find it? She said, that's why she put it on the refrigerator. So you understand the reverse story over here? How things fall into place. So the reality is that somebody once came to the Chazaynish and he said that, you know, he got married and he was hoping to be this Gadol Hadar and to be this Masmid Otzim, and his wife makes him take out the garbage, and his wife makes him go with her to her wedding, and so on. So, you know, he was upset, you know, when during the dating process, he was talking to Rabbi Kiva Eger, and, you know, she's talking to him now like he's just an ordinary person. So the Chazaynish told him that there are two people, or two entities, shall we say, that know who you are. You can't fool. The Rabbi Shalom and your wife and children. Okay? They know who you are. So she said to me, if you're schmoozing on the way home from Marriott with your friends, then you come home and she asks you to take out the garbage, and you say, no, I have to wake up the seeker and I can't do it. So the hypocrisy surfaces. If she saw 100% hasmada on your part, then it would be different. You can't hide from children. They know exactly who we are. Now, if we can't hide from children, and they know exactly who we are, so l'chayra, we are in trouble then, aren't we? Right, Tzuris? What did they say? That Yid came to a Rebbe in Pailu and he said, the pirates accusing me of stealing money from me. They wanted to throw me into the dungeon. The Rebbe says, they give you a bracha that the MS should come out. He goes, no, chas v'shalom, please. No. You know, if the kids are going to see who we are, it's tzuris. You know, we're in trouble. How's that going to work? How's that going to be? So the answer for that is that an understanding in the sense of, hey, I'm the father. I know that I have told you this story many times. So just as a hagdama to go a little bit weiter. So once babysitting for my Ben Zekunim. And he comes to me and he says, it was all me and him alone in the house. He's 9 years old. And then he was 7 years old when the story happened. And he says, Tati, I don't know what to do. Tati, I don't have what to do. Tati, I don't have what to do. Do anything. Let me finish what I have to, okay? But I don't have what to do. Do anything. Let me finish what I have to. Open the Nash closet. Do it. There's nothing in the Nash closet. Now, there were big boxes for the kids going to camp. For those that don't have kids in camp, let me tell you that the minig is that before kids go to camp, you send them off with tremendous cases of water and big boxes of nash, because you know they're going to the Sahara Desert and there's absolutely no food or water there. Then, the first visiting day, all of 10 days later, you load up big boxes of nash and more cases of water. Then, you spend the next 3 weeks finding people to take water there, you know, and boxes of nash. Then comes the second visiting day. Then you send it up to them. They should have it for the trip on the way home. So basically, you're running this huge big you're in competition with FedEx, and I don't know why they say the Postal Service is going bankrupt. Just from this alone. Then when you get to camp, you know what they're doing with the water? You see them chasing each other, having water fights, spritzing it, you know? For that, you needed water here for $1.25 a bottle, you know? So Akopanim, so there's huge boxes of nash that's ready to go for the kids, and he wants to know if he can open the nash. And I'm like, do whatever you want, let me finish. So he's opening up box after box, and he's basically sitting there like a nazir in a vineyard. He's sitting there, he's going to town. And the door opens up, and in walks my oldest son. You know, he's in his
son.
whatever. He has my oldest son. The oldest son. He has a family himself.
Big son. He's his oldest son.
Right. And he's about 25 years senior to this little one.
It's not a big son.
No worry, he doesn't get assaulted. Not from you, Uncle. So he walks in. The Uncle says, it's not nice I say a big son, because people don't understand.
Yes, they do.
That should be, he says people do understand what it means. No, he's not big at all. He's a very nice boy. Anyway, he walks in, and he looks at his little brother. Now, he's already a father of a bunch of kids himself, Kanai Nahara. He looks at his little brother sitting there with his whole thing, and he goes, Ta, can I ask you a question? And I say, no. Actually, yes. He says, in my days, do you know what we had to do for one bag of potato chip? You know, look at this kid. So I said, I want to tell you something, okay? Rabbi Shalom is a very good Schachter. He knows which neshama is to send to which father and which mother. And the Rabbi Shalom knows more than that. He knows which neshama needs 20-year-old parents, and he knows which neshama needs whatever parent. Okay? We'll leave that. All I know is when I put on that Purim costume today, I said to the person that was helping me, so I need that almonds powder for my beard. He goes, no, you don't. Okay. And the Sefer Rabbi Yaakov said that when he saw his first white hair, he said, nope. After every 50 years of white hair, nishkefel. When he saw the second one there next week, he said, uh-oh. All right. So I said, you're right. You weren't raised the same way he was raised. But guess what? There's a reason you have to be raised your way. There's a reason you have to be raised that way. V'hodaya. That's when you were sent down to this world. So, it's not so much, you're right, your kid knows who you are, your wife knows who you are, but you have to be who you are. You have to take the position that who I am is someone that could convey amunah and chinuch to my children in a way that nobody else in the world can. V'haraya, you are the father. And the Rabbi Shem is the Schachter. And when that decision was made by Sheishes Yemei Bereishis, to connect you to your child, then you have to be home and you have to be able to convey it to them. And don't think, well, who am I to be able to teach my kid? And I'm not getting through to him anyway. Because trust me, if you speak to people in retrospect, they look back at their chinuch and they want those moments, those precious moments that a father is together with a child. That imbues him with the kayach to be able to pick it up and to go on. And therefore you have to be there. And what I mean to say is that if the Rebbeinu Shem gave you this bekasha, the Rebbeinu Shem gave you this role as a father, then don't worry. You can be a piece of meat, but you become a rebbe. You're the one that does it. When someone views his responsibility in life to his neighbors, to the people around him in a way that if the Rebbeinu Shem put me here as a simon, I have to help him, and I may be in a rush, and if this person standing on the street, I have to give him a ride. And he's my downstairs neighbor. I have no kayach to talk to him every morning, but he needs someone to talk to. If the Rabbi Shalom put me here as a simon, I have to be here. Somebody once came to the Ger Rebbe. He said, there's an almana in his house. He owned a series of houses. She doesn't pay the rent. So I'm throwing her out. They made me come to you, so I'm informing you. So the Rebbe said, you're not throwing her out. So he said, look, let the tzibur raise money. Why is it my responsibility? Because she happens to be my tenant. Let the tzibur raise money to pay the rent. Why is it my sole responsibility? So the guy, Rebbe, he said, there's no raya in Chazal, he told the Rebbe, that I should have to pay. So the Rebbe said, I disagree with you. It says someone's a chotzi eved v'chotzi ben chayrin, he's a half free and he's a half slave, so he can't marry a shivcha because of the tzad chayv shabai, because he's a half free person. He can't marry a free girl because so he says, what is the din? Koifin is rabbi, we forced the Rabbi, the master, to set him free, because you can't leave a person in limbo. He has to have a life. So the Ger Rebbe said, why do we force him to set him free? Why don't we just say everyone has to chip in and buy him out? So we don't do that. If the Rebbeinu Shem sent you this almana, then she's your responsibility. And that is true for everything in life. Because Baruch Hu's mezavik zevugim, that means everything we come into connection with. And Kal V'chaimer, it's true for our own children and our own family. So when a person feels, as you get older and as you assume responsibility, that you care for someone else and there's a need to care for someone else, so things change. Then the entire world changes. And you should know, the more you believe that I am the one that could convey the amunah in my house, And even though I'm worried because I spoke to an individual this year who's working in a place 22 years and they gave him the pink slip. Pink was very, very clear. And his side job went on him as well. And he says, I have to come home happy. I'm Purim. I know what's coming. He says, you're the father of the house. You're the one that has to come home happy. The Rebbe Hashem gave you this Nisayan. You could convey it. And that simcha is the makar for Panas. So Haman is coming to get Mordechai, and he sees Mordechai sitting with little children. And what is he teaching them? It was the second day of Pesach. He's teaching them the halachos of being makriv the carbon omer, which is the carbon of barley, the sacrifice of barley that was brought in the Beis Hamikdash on the second day of Pesach, and that allowed for the new tfuah, the new crop of that year to be eaten. And he's coming toward Mordechai, and Mordechai is very frightened. He sees someone coming toward him, he thinks this is it. He tells the kids, run for your lives. And the kids want to stay with Mordechai. They say, whatever happens to you happens to us. And Mordechai prepares himself for the worst. And Haman says to him that, he says, it's going to be a different story now. You're going for a ride on a horse. He says, by the way, what are you teaching them about? He shows them the kaimitz, the handful of barley. He says, your handful of barley pushed away my 10,000 kicker kesef. My 10,000 talents of kesef. You know, it comes out to a cheshbon of, I don't know, $250,000, whatever it is, or even more so, depending how you count. So in other words, what did Haman mean to say? Some Sefer explains it this way, that the Rebbe Hashem doesn't judge tzedakah by numbers. Because Baruch Hu doesn't say, you know, I'm giving it to the highest bidder. The Rebbe Hashem says, I am giving it to the one that has the greatest nediva slave. I'm giving it to the one that it's the toughest. And when you come home to your house under those circumstances, that your job is in question, and whatever else is going on in your life, and you got to be happy this Purim. You're going to sit there by the Sudas Purim, and you're going to laugh and dance. And you're going to try to convey that to your children. The Rabbi Shalom considers a handful of barley much greater Mesiras Nefesh on your part than all of the money in the world. I would imagine 10,000 kicker kesef adjusted for inflation would add up to millions and millions. The fact that Mordechai was sitting with little children meant that Al Pi Cheshbon, all of Klal Yisrael, I don't want to say it out. So what's the point of children? There's not going to be any next generation anyway. And basically, what was Mordechai saying? I do mine, and you do yours. Chavetz Chaim asks Zakash, he says, why are we so excited when a son is born? Essentially, if a person has a child, that means, hey, you know, Kadosh Baruch Hu is preparing the next generation, and you're, we know where the previous generation is going. Bar mitzvah, even more so, a wedding, Loim Habaya, that's it, your job is done. That's it. Now it's their job to continue. And by an anicle, we're all excited. What are you so excited about an anicle? You should think, uh-oh. And the answer is, says the Chavetz Chaim, our mazel feels that our main tafkid in this world is to convey that emunah to the next generation. And the more we have an interest to do so, and the more we're focusing on those children and grandchildren, or your neighbor's children, or your talmidim, or whatever the case may be, then the more you will have accomplished your tafkid in life, and that creates a simcha that we don't even understand what the simcha is. You're dancing by a wedding, you don't know what the simcha is. Like I told you many times, guy comes over to you and says, Mazel Tov, you're a Baal Simcha. You know, give me a bracha. He says, my wife is a Baal Simcha. I'm a Baal Chayif, he says, you know. You are a Baal Simcha. They say, be good to your kids because they picked your nursing home. That's what the Welt says. You have to be good to your kids because we're going to define ourselves by the attempt that we made. Not necessarily by how our kids turned out, because that's not up to us. Satmar Rebbe's Chayil Bracha once said there are three kinds of children. There are those that you can do everything right and it's not going to work. There are those you can do everything wrong and it is going to work. And there are those that it's totally taking you. So, you know, it's not necessarily by the hatzlacha. It's by what we did. What we believed in ourselves. There was a Yid, Ramatcha Yafi, I think his name was Ramatcha. Talmud of Rabbi. He was an amazing person. I knew him when he was mamish in his, 80s, 90s. I don't know how old he was. And he started, after he was a Magachir many years, and he had a Besmedrish, he had everything. And now, in his old age, he's all alone. He started a kindergarten. I was like, well, what do you need this for? A kindergarten? He said, Rabbi Aaron told him, as long as he's breathing, that for Oiftoim at Yiddishkeit. He said, if the day came that he's not giving shiurim anymore, he's going back to Aleph Beis. He's not starting. This is just an unbelievable, amazing Mesiras Nefesh. That's kind of beyond anything really I ever saw in my life. So the Sfas Emes asks a kasha. He says, what does it mean the Yadabra Hashem al Moshe Lemer? The whole Torah, Moshe Rabbeinu went up to Shemayim, and Hashem taught him the entire Torah. He was there for 40 days, and he learned everything. Bavli, Yerushalmi, Zoyer, Sifra, Sifri, everything From Chumash, from Sefer Yetzirah to the Kitzur Hilchos Shabbos that's in the shelf, everything. He saw it all. Right? It says, Moshe was learning and he forgot. Until it was given to him as a gift. So he knew everything. So he comes down, so the pasuk says, Hashem says to Moshe, let me teach you this parasha. Let me teach you. He knows everything, right? What's the Yidar B'Shem Moshe Leimer in the whole Torah?
Pleasure.
The Rabbi Yankel, you ever asked that kasha? He knew everything already,
Yeah,
no?
1 second I learned the whole Shas.
But Moshe Rabbeinu needed more help than that. Right?
Just 1 second I need.
That
Whole
doesn't.
thing twice.
Right, so imagine you knew the whole Shas, you learned it in 1 second, and I would come to you, Rabbi Yankel, let me teach you a Mishnah and Brachas. You look at me like I'm off the wall.
No, I don't know that.
You learned the whole Shas in 1 second. I'm teaching you a Mishnah and Brachas.
That's
Right.
the only
So Moshe Rabbeinu learned Kol HaTorah Kula Shemayim. So what's the Yidar B'Shem Moshe Leimer? So Zok the Svas Emes, you're right. The Yidar B'Shem Moshe Leimer wasn't to teach Moshe the Torah. Moshe learned the whole Torah Shemayim. The Yidar B'Shem Moshe Leimer was teaching Moshe how to teach Klal Yisrael the Torah. And that's the Yidar B'Shem Moshe Leimer. With each parasha, Kadosh Baruch Hu Kabiyachal said to Moshe Rabbeinu, let me show you how to teach this to Klal Yisrael. And that's the Vayikra with the small aleph, because Moshe Rabbeinu learned the Torah with a big aleph. On that level, we would have never understood it. Not after the Chet HaEgel, says the Sfas Emes. So Moshe Rabbeinu says, let me teach you the Torah with this. Kadosh Baruch Hu says, let me show you how to teach Torah with the small aleph. Let me show you how you're doing it. So in other words, the Kedushas HaTorah comes through by our ability to stop and to convey to our children. It's a very big thing. How many fathers learn with their children? Avos Abanim is very nice. But, and assuming you don't open your phone. And you don't even look at your phone. See who's calling. You don't even say, tell the kid. Okay, all right, like the kid is like, you may as well answer the call. You can do that.
No internet.
And I told you, and I told you, I once saw a sad sight. I went into an Avos Abanim someplace, the father's on his phone and the kid's on a phone. They may as well text to each other, like, you're sitting across the table. How many times do we stop everything and we're talking to our children? You faher your kid. It's very good to faher your kid. And you can't tell your Rabbi Teich? You don't know the Gemara? How many times are you listening to it? I'm not saying you have to see where your child is up to, but I would like to faher that father on the Daf Yomi Shir he went to that night that he slept in. And see, I wonder how you would do. So, in addition to faharing, what is it? That you learn. I know I learned with my father, Mishnayos, Masechta Shabbos, and it's so precious to me. When we get to that part of Daf Yomi, the Gemaras I sat and learned with my father, it mamish brings tears to my eyes. So, where are going to be the tears for the children in the next generation if you don't take the time? So, as I'm giving this little shmooze over here to myself, my little one comes over to me, that same Ben Zakunim. He says, Tati, you want to play chess with me? I said, no. You see, I'm busy now. I said, put your money where your mouth is. This kid is craving for some parental love, for some chizik. So I said, I'm going to take the time off and I'm going to play chess with him and I'm going to show him, how you play. So I decided I'm going to practice what I preached today, and I put down the notebook. If you notice, by the way, today I brought my whole hard drive, the whole big computer. For those that don't see it, I mean the spiral notebook. Okay. And I sat down to play chess with him. We'll talk, we'll bond, we'll schmooze.
GPS.
It wasn't a very long game because he checkmated me in 4 moves.
No, 2.
Yeah. Well, he did it in 4. Okay.
Oh,
so then he said, you want to play again? I said, I wasn't sure. Okay. So then I started copying him. I figured whatever he does, I'll do. But then when he knocked off my queen with his queen, I realized I can't copy him. You see the problem?
Same queen?
Yeah.
Oh.
So as long as I'm focused, I'm okay with chess. But how do you keep, like so many other things on my mind? They say to the Gastanina Rebbe that they want to, he was a Kotzke Talmud, that when they started teaching him how to play chess, he said, he started going back. He said, no, once you move, there's no way of going back. He said, this is not a Yiddish spiel. He said, this is not a Yiddish game. In Amunah, in Yidden you can always go back. Don't you think that you do something and you can't go back. You can always go back. So I said, so I met someone talk. He says to me, that's why I don't play with my kids. I said, why not? He says, because, that he remembers by the Shabbat brachas he played with his wife, and his wife kept beating him, and felt so demoralized. He said, had a similar experience, but I dafka let my wife beat me. I said, I claim. Okay. Of course, only one Rabbi Shem knows the truth, right? All right. No, so this guy was saying he doesn't play with his kids because his kids are smarter than him, and he loses, and they look down at him. And I said to him, I think that teaching your kids how to lose is much more important than teaching them how to win. Okay? So you should play with your kids. I have no problem with him saying, you're more focused, you're more thinking, and I said, teach me. Show me how you do it. The one thing I never really understood about chess is that the queen gets to do whatever she wants. Why is it the queen that gets to do whatever she wants? I think from a Shalom Bayis perspective, this is like, this game is in trouble, So someone told me that, the main part of the game is knocking out the queen. It's like the whole Purim story, replacing one queen for another. Do you remember, I'm trying to find this story, but remember as a kid, there was this story about this Yiddish child that was kidnapped, and he was in a monastery, and then at the end he becomes like the Pope or this major cardinal, and his father comes to him, whatever, I don't remember the one, and his father comes to him, and his father's a Rav, and the two of them meet, and they play chess, and then when they were little kids, the father used to play chess with him, and he taught him a move, and when he made that move, he went out of his mind, he said, "You're my father," and they hugged each other. Right? Was such a story?
Yeah, the Jewish Pope. Yeah,
was it cousin of Rashi? Second cousin of Rashi. Okay. There were many cantatas on this story. All cantatas end with the father hugging the child, right? That's always how it goes. I am telling you that if the Inquisition would have known how the camps are raking it in on these cantatas, they would have never started the Inquisition. I'm telling you. They would have known how many plays Chalamoid Yidden are going to, and they're watching the Spanish Inquisition. They would have never done it. I'm telling you. Right. So Lamaisa, chess is a game of manipulation. It is a game of trapping the king, the other person's king. And basically, if you look at the Megillah, there are two stories. There's a story of manipulation, and there's a story of whether I'm going to be manipulated or not, I don't know. But I'm going to be the best person I can on this given day. So Haman, Achashverosh, Vashti, Biksan, Seresh, they're all major manipulators. If you see the Midrashim, it's almost mind-boggling to keep cheshbon. First, Haman and Vashti are in cahoots with each other to stop the Beis HaMikdash. To issue a stop order on the Beis HaMikdash. Then Haman wanted Vashti killed because he wanted to move in his daughter. And it almost worked, but as his daughter had her first date with Achashverosh, as the Kadosh Baruch Hu controls everything in this world, boom, this bad breath comes out of her, and Achashverosh says, ooh, and she's casted to the, what is it called in the computer, the recycling pile, recycle. Right? So here, the whole future of Klal Yisrael and of the kingdoms in the world are at stake, and one spoon of Listerine makes all the difference. You want to know how HaKadosh Baruch Hu controls the world. So here, so he wants Vashti to die. And here, Biksan and Seresh have a whole plan to kill Achashverosh because they're going to blame Matcha Esther. Matcha Esther got killed, and Haman is behind the scenes. He's behind the Biksan and Seresh, and when Biksan and Seresh gets killed, he's angry at Mordechai. Everyone's trying to kill everyone else to figure this all out. Right? And now, a manipulator always thinks that once I win, once I'm going to work things out and manipulate that the right people die and it's checkmate, I live forever. You have to believe that, or else what's the point? You think just like you manipulated someone else, the other guy's not going to do the same thing to you? He'll do the same thing there. There's nothing. I told you the story once. This is a sad story. I hope it's not true. But someone told me that in a certain bungalow colony, not a bungalow colony today, no more bungalow colonies, there's house colonies. So they made up, they're not going to build past a certain amount. Certain. So this guy goes in the middle of the winter, he builds out a nice patio. And then he takes a picture of it, he emails it to everybody, and he tells them, I wasn't supposed to build it. I did it. I asked the Rav said, Taka, Shlachti and Galut, you weren't supposed to. But now that it's built, you're now allowed to take it apart. So the next week, he got an email. And you see his porch is smashed to smithereens. And it says, we asked the Rav, and the Rav told us we weren't allowed to do it, but now that it's taken apart, you are not allowed to rebuild it. Once you play the manipulating game, there's no end to it. So what you do, he does. So at the end, no one has anything.
That's right.
To manipulate really is kvira. It's kvira because you don't believe that there's a world coming. Now, if you look at the beginning of Hilchos Megillah, there's a very, very interesting halacha. It says, Kriyas HaMegillah is more important than anything else. Nothing comes before Kriyas HaMegillah Except for which mitzvah? What does it say in the Gemara and the Shulchan Aruch? Anybody? What is the one thing that comes before Kriyas HaMegillah? A mes mitzvah. Yeah. A dead body that is lying there and there's no one there to bury it, that comes before Kriyas HaMegillah. So it's like, here you are, you're learning with kids the Megillah, and they're so excited, and you're saying, this one thing comes before Megillah. Yeah, what? Kibbut Avayim, not tzedakah. No, burying dead corpses that are laying on the ground and no one is there. Like, what does it come in here? Like, out of all places by Kriyas HaMegillah, we know a mes mitzvah is important. But the emes is, if you think about what the Megillah is, it's diametrically opposed to each other. Why does somebody stop? Someone is traveling and there's a dead body laying on the floor. There's nobody here. Why should I stop now and spend who knows how long to bury this body? If the police come along and I'm burying a body, that's not going to look very good, right? I'm taking a chance. Why do I do this? Why should I stop? And the answer is because I am maimin bi'amunah shalema. That if the Rabbi Shalom said that I should pass through at this given moment, and this body is laying here, then it is my responsibility. It is my achrayus. V'haraya, I am here. Will this person ever pay me back? No, he's dead. Will his parents ever pay me back? Will his children ever pay me? He doesn't have any. He's a mes mitzvah. And I say I will get nothing out of this. The mes mitzvah is the epitome of chesed shalemes. A real chesed shalemes. Not like when someone borrows $20 from you and he says it's a chesed shalemes.
Oh, yes.
Never understood what that meant until I chapped what he meant. You don't expect to get it back. Yeah. Okay. I said, so in other words, it's the opposite of there are people, whatever they do in their life is only manipulation. That's it. If I feel I can get something out of you, I'll be your friend. The second afterwards, I have nothing to do with you anymore. And that's Haman. That's Vashti. That's Bikshah Meserish. That's Achashverosh. That's the whole Persian palace over here in this time period. Daika Mes Mitzvah shows the opposite. That what I am doing has absolutely nothing to do with what I'm going to get back. I am doing it because the Rebbeinu Shem wants me to do this at this given moment. It is what is diametrically opposed to the kfira of everyone else over here that's manipulating in the Megillah. There was that famous story. There's a man. There's a lot of different versions to the story, but more or less it goes like this. He's an administrator of a yeshiva, and he keeps getting these wonderful letters from the bank every day that first kindly suggest that they're going to foreclose, then they don't kindly suggest so much they're going to foreclose, then they actually send him a letter for foreclosure. So he tries all the shtick, it's not, you didn't send it on the right name, not on the legal name, and this and yes, he hides under the table when the mailman walks in, but after a while, the tricks run out, and that's it. And he needs, whatever, $300,000 by the next morning, and that the yeshiva goes down, and every yeshiva has one person that doesn't sleep at night. And he's tossing and turning, and no eitzah, and he hears about a certain gevir, maybe he gets an appointment with him, someplace in Yehupitz, and he's riding, and he's on the highway, and nature has its calling. In other words, he has to make an asher yotzar after he performs the mitzvah. And he has no choice, he drives off the highway, and he's driving, he's late for this appointment, but what do? And he comes by a big sign that says next rest area 20 miles, and he's driving, and he gets there, and there's a big sign, rest area out of order, next rest area 20 miles. And by now the situation is desperate for a lot of reasons. He is in big trouble, and when he's in mamish doesn't know what to do. And he passes some remote funeral home, and he comes in over there. And the guy's like, is there a bathroom? Because this is not a public bathroom place. Because you're here for the funeral? So he says, yeah, I'm here for the funeral. Pray about it. So he says, fine, sign in. He signs in his name, and he runs off to the bathroom. And while he's there, and he says, I'm here. So it's a yid, let me be malava. It was a Jewish chapel, so he's malava a little bit. And he walks there, and he goes home. Finally, he meets this guy. The guy is so furious that he came late. He says, why are you late? It's a long story. Please, don't make me say it. And that's it. And he comes home, and the bank is foreclosing, and he's very despondent, zebrachim zeshmetet. And the next day, the secretary comes in and says, here's the letter from the bank. From the lawyer. Don't opening this letter. Open up in 6 years. Now you have to open it. You have to come to terms of reality. He doesn't know he should rise kriya. Should he get down and sit shiva? And he opens up the letter, and it says from so-and-so, ESQ, whatever that's supposed to mean, LLC, v'chulu, v'chulu, v'chulu. You know what I mean? Rosenberg, and Rosenberg. You know the code, right? They call up. Hello, can I speak to Mr. Rosenberg? No, he's not here. Mr. Rosenberg? No, he's not here. Can I speak to Mr. Rosenberg? No, he's not here. Can I speak to Mr. Rosenberg? Yes, he's here. 1 minute, please. Right? Okay? So he calls up. Yeah, and it says as follows, that we are counsel for Mr. So-and-so. Who is Mr. So-and-so? Must be a new bank manager. No, he is the person who passed away.
He doesn't work on Sunday.
And he was so angry at his kids that they left him basically alone in his old age, that he left in his tzava, that his entire wealth, that includes all the casinos that he owned, v'chulu, 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 and the yachts should be divided amongst the people who came to his funeral. And there he had the check for the bank the next day. Right? So we don't know that when we perform a mes mitzvah, right, what it means. It's just a certain amount of amunah. If the Rabbi sent me here to the bathroom and drove me 40 miles away, it's and I have to be with his levaya. Do we know cheshbakus cheshbainis, the hashgacha pratis of how things work? I have somebody told me about his baba. Whenever there was a levaya, she always went in her slippers. Why? Because she wanted to be in avelis as a feeling of appreciating the tsar of the other. Why didn't anyone else ever think of this? They told her. You know, she always put on her slippers, go to the levaya, put on her Tisha B'Av shoes. And on Lamaisa, I kid you not, she was nifter on Tisha B'Av. And everybody came to her levaya wearing Tisha B'Av shoes. So we see in Shemayim how, you know, nothing, everything is there, is al piderech hatev, everything is. A man told me a story in Eretz Yisrael. An old woman passed away. They brought her to Eretz Yisrael. They were up on Har Zaysim, and it was during the Intifada, and there was rioting, and the police said, you got to turn around. Turn around with a dead body. How are we going to turn around? You don't, in Yerushalayim, you don't bring a body back, and you don't spend the night. You got to turn around. It's like on the fashion. All of a sudden, there was a lull in the fighting, and it wasn't like the Fatah to have their cheretz for their slingshots had to be recharged, and they said, okay, go quickly. And they went and they buried her. And then somebody remembered a story. She grew up in Yerushalayim. She was a little girl, 10 years old, and her Zayda was nifter, and they were going, and boom, they were bombarded with rocks. Right? Some things never change. And this little girl loved her grandfather and stood up to the big mufti or whatever and said, let my grandfather be buried. He was a holy man. Everyone stood there and like, whoa. And he said, okay, stop. Wait till they go through. She had that Mesirus Nefesh, and in Shemayim, nothing is forgotten. So we know that if there's a Metz mitzvah laying there, what is it? There's a bunch of in this world. There's Ashgacha Pratis. That's it. Now, it means something else also. It means we know why are we so makbid on the cover of a mace? Because this is just, the body has to be buried, so the neshama goes on and the process continues. We know that it's only chapter 2. The world never ends, and the neshama is nitzchias. Everyone comes to their tikkun. So Bi'etzem, the manipulator that wants so-and-so killed because I'll move in my daughter, and then this and that and that, he believes that life doesn't go on forever. It's all going to end with me. A person that believes life is going to go on forever doesn't manipulate, because at the end it's only going to catch up to you. The opposite of manipulating is the bittul, is Mordechai, who for 4 years, like we said last week, sits there and says, my job is to try to see Esther, try to give her some chizik. There's been no movement in 4 years, I have no idea why this happened, I go, I do what I have to do. And later when Mordechai finds out about Dixon B'Seresh, and he says to Esther specifically, I want you to get the brownie points, because he knew her life was in danger, and he wanted Achashverosh to protect her. And he said, say to Achashverosh, I uncovered the plot. I get the credit. I get the commission. Kumt Esther. What does Esther do? She says, Mordechai told it. And the Gemara says, if you repeat it in the name of someone else, maybe Geula Yolam. That you bring it to Geula. I remember once someone told me, showed me I think some cipher that says that if you see somebody else's chiddush, and you ponder on it for many, many hours with Mesirus Nefesh until you understand it, Kadosh Baruch Hu considers it as if it's your own chiddush. So this person said, I know someone that wrote a whole set of svarim based on that. You know what I mean? Look what he did. Look what she did. Each one is giving it away to the other. In the world of manipulation, I'll have someone die and assassinated so I get my guy in. In a world of amunah, I say, I'm not taking the credit, I'm giving the credit to someone else. Right? Pasuk says, here comes who builds the base of Migdash? A 13-year-old boy. Betzaul ben Uri ben Chur lamate Yehuda. Why do you have to be a 13-year-old boy? Why not Uri? Zaktis Vasemes, it's in the Lakutim and Parshas Vayakel. He says that Beis Hamikdash was so pure, it went back to the original Saydus of the Beis Hamikdash. It had to be so uncorrupt that you needed a 13-year-old kid by his bar mitzvah that gets a new neshama, that he hears exactly what it has to be. And then he says another thing. He says, Betzaul ben Uri ben Chur. Who was Chur? Who was Chur, Rabbi Sai? He was, right, Miriam's, who was Chur, was the one that was killed by the Chet HaEgel for standing up for the Chet HaEgel. So he says that Betzaul was the neshama of Chur. Pakir of Einovis al Banim is because the Rizal says means Gilgul. Banim means Gilgul. And not only that, what happened by Betzalel is when he turned 13, all of a sudden his face looked exactly like Chor. And that's what the pasuk says, Ru'u, see. See Betzalel ben Uri ben Chor. They looked at him, they realized. And what happened over here is Klal Yisrael was very worried, says the Sfas Emes. They said, we'll never have a tikkun. We killed Chor. How could we possibly have a tikkun on the Chet Egel? How could the Mishkan be a tikkun? After what we did, there's no tikkun. We murdered Chor. And Moshe Rabbeinu said, go on. Life has to go on. And when they saw that Betzalel is Chor, they understood that was not the end. That there was a tikkun to what they did. And the Sfas Emes says that, as a matter of fact, that's why the killing of Chor is not mentioned in the Torah clear out. We know it only from the Midrashim. Because there was a total tikkun to it. Because Klal Yisrael said after the Chet Egel, we brought death onto the world, we brought all this pain, we're going to start building the Mishkan, life will go on. We move on. We tried to manipulate things, it didn't work, now we go with Amunah. I don't know what's going to be tomorrow. I only know today. I think I told you this earlier on in the year. That in my class, we're getting to a real hard Gemara, and I said, please, everyone's concentration now, no distraction. Right into my mazel, remember the space shuttle was flying by on top of a plane, like it had to be through my window, right? By that Taisus, like I said. I looked out the window, I said, Simon is good, and I said, I warned everyone, shot. One kid goes, look! And I was ready to rip him alive, and he looks at me and he goes, Rabbi, charge it to my credit card. That was his answer. Charge it to my credit card.
I don't have any.
Well, he had Baruch Hashem. So Zis. We all have a credit card by HaKadosh Baruch. It's never the end of the road, and that's Ad Lo Yada. And that's the whole connection between Purim and the Shkolim, right? You used up the Shkolim for this year, there were new Shkolim for the next year. And the leftover Shkolim were used for different purposes. Nothing was ever lost. And that's the Inyan of the Karban Oimer also. There's the new Tfuah, there's a new year. Mishenichnas Adar, Marbim B'Simcha. They say somebody went to be Menachem Ovel, someone, and he said, I don't know, you're supposed to say something. I don't know how to say it, the Hebrew part. The guy says, don't worry, there's a sign on the wall, and you'll say it. So he goes to be Menachem Ovel, and he comes over, you shouldn't know from any pain anymore, and he goes, and Mishanichnas Adar Marbim B'Simcha, right? He got the wrong sign. But the emes is that is not the wrong sign, because there's no Simcha, the process of Avelis is Avelis Rachman al-Islam. But what does Hamakam Yenachem Eschem mean? Hamakam means that Kosh Baruch was all-encompassing. Then the reason there's Necham is because you think it's the end of the world, because you have a very limited perspective on the world. Your lens is not a lens that goes from side to side. The big, the lens that goes, the panoramic lens. The Rebbe Hashem encompasses the entire world. He says the death is not the end of the process. It goes weiter. And that's why the Nes Mitzvah doesn't discourage us. We'll do whatever we have to do. And basically, we understand when you live a world of manipulation, it's today. Who can I kill today to grab his money? In a world of emunah, whatever I do is a hachana for what's going to be. Ala eitz asher heichen loy. So l'maisa, whenever there's the word heichen, it means hachana, it means a mitzvah. So Yitaka had a mitzvah of Mechias Amalek on that tree. Once there was a mitzvah. So I heard a story today that there was a man who came to the Imrei Chaim, Reb Chaim Meir, one of the Vision Rebbe, and Zechar Levracha, and he said to him, I got a letter from my father in Romania. And there was the wartime Tsaris. What does your father write? And he knew the mail was very heavily censored. He writes like this: I need an Asla Gerish. He tells the Rebbe, what's that supposed to mean? He needs an Asla Gerish. So the Rebbe says, he'll open up a Chumash. He opens up a Chumash, and it says over there, when they collected the money for the Mishkan, on the word, the Esfa Elef, and the 1,000, there's an Asla Gerish. The Trapta goes, the Esfa Elef, Asla Gerish. He says, you know what your father is saying? Asla, he has to get up and go and Gerish and get out. And he needs the money. You have to send him $1,000 American right away. And Kachavi sent it to him, and he saved his father's life in Romania. So he said to the Rebbe, that's Mamish Ruach HaKodesh. Like, how did you know? That's what an Asla Gerish means. He says, you know what it is? There's two kinds of people. Someone comes to you and says, my father's in Romania. And 100,000 Jews are in Romania now. What do you want from me? And somebody comes and says, oh, your father's in Romania, right? Your heart is overwhelmed with pain. You're coming to me. Maybe there's a way I can help you. The Hashem directs your mind. He opens things up for you that you never saw before. Yid tells me that he has a store in the Bronx. Started a business a while ago. And the first week, he gets a thing from the local Young Israel that maybe he wants to come to Davin or whole thing. He goes, how in the world? I didn't start the store yet. I'm just doing the construction. How do they already know to come for a schnorrel letter for me? So he looks around. He didn't believe there were any Yidden over there in that part of the Bronx. He sees a storefront. There's mamish a minion left. So he goes to them and he says, he says, Shalom Aleichem. He says, yeah, I'm making a store 2 blocks down. He says, how did you guys know? He said they passed by and they saw the construction, and on the floor they saw a sign that said store hours, and it said Friday close at 12. We started dancing. So who closes Friday at 12? You must be a Shem Shabbos. There's a connection. We get to each other if we want. So I want to wrap things up over here by saying, Gemara says in Masechtas Megillah, Shalu Talmidim of Shem Bayichai, the Talmidim asked of Shem Bayichai, why that Neimai is Chayvus Seneim Shal Yisrael Kliya? Why was Klal Yisrael? Why did they have to suffer dying during the times of Purim? So what does Rav Shem Bayichai say? You tell me. Amar Ata. So they say that when the Henem is Suda Shel Achashverosh, they had enough from the Suda of Achashverosh. So Rav Shem Bayichai, then all should only be in Shushan. What about everyone else? So they said, okay, they bowed down to the Tzelem of Nebuchadnezzar. The Gemara says in Masechtas Brachos, I heard this from Meshgiach L'Zayin Gesund. It says, David HaMelech says, Loi Chassid, am I not a Chassid? All the kings of the east and the west, they sit agudais. They sit in their, tensions together, and they're, working, and the meetings, and how do we get the big 8, the GP, right? Economies and tariffs, and what do? I'm the king. Yodai melechleches badam. My hands are dripping with blood, with embryos and with placentas. L'tayir isha l'bayla, to figure out how to be metayir and isha l'bayla. Not only that, after David HaMelech with Paskin Ashayla, he went to Mephivosheth, his Rabbi, and mind you, he's the son of Shaul, so it's a little bit sensitive over there. Shaul is the king, right? The previous king, and there's like a shtickle here. He has no problem. He goes to Mephivosheth, he says, this was my psak halacha. Yafa Danti, Yafa Chiyavti, Yafa Zakisi. Did I say that he's Chayiv and that I charged him money? Am I right? Is this Tahar? Right? And Mephivosheth would either give his Iskama or lack of such. And that's why the Gemara says that sometimes Mephivosheth, if he didn't like what David said, he told him. And sometimes Mephivosheth was Mevayish Pnei David Ba'alach. He embarrassed him. And because David was able to take this, so he was like to his son and embarrassed Mephivosheth. Okay. But the point is, now here's the question. If Mephivosheth knew how to pass him better than David, why did they send the Shaila straight to Mephivosheth? So why did David sit with the Shaila to start with? Instead of sitting for an hour trying to figure out who's Chayiv, who's Potter, Torah, Tomei, with your hands dripping of blood, go to Mephivosheth. What's the halacha? He says, there's an Indian of Tzaddik Moishel B'Yiras Elikim. The Amora de Asa, when he paskins the Shaila, in Shemayim they're masking to that. And if he's the Gadol Adar and he paskins the Shaila, they're masking to that. There were stories of Rabbanim, somebody was sick, he said, don't live in that area, go live someplace else. I said, why? He said, because in Hilchas Treifus, the Rav of that town has a certain opinion, and according to that, you're much better off when someone says it's kosher in a different town. That the world goes after where the Torah is. And the bigger the person is, the more he has a kayach in that sense. There was once a person, I don't want to say who, but he was stopped by a policeman on the highway, and the guy was trying to talk himself out of the ticket. He says, my rabbi in back, he's head of a rabbinic council of all of America. And the guy yells, and of Canada, he yells for the cop, also. So Lamaisa, Adam is the king. He's the king of David is the king of Klal Yisrael. He's Adam Harishain, Adam David HaMashiach. So when he said somebody is Potter, in Shemayim there was a whole din. There was a limit schus. Anyone that does this is Potter. When he said so and so is Chayiv, there was a kitrig against Rishoyim. When he said so and so is Tahar, so there was a cheshik in all of Klal Yisrael, of Shalom Bayis. There was a cheshik of rebuilding Klal Yisrael. Whatever David said had a tremendous impact, because Min HaShemayim, they were masking on him. And therefore he took the paskin, the shilas on his own. He said, Malachi Mizrach Amarav, they're Yoshvim Agudais. And God forbid somebody says something wrong, and you embarrass someone, it's the end of the world. They say the guy's writing a letter. He starts writing a letter, he writes dear, he's writing to his grandfather. He spells dear, D-E-E-R. Right? His big sister comes by and says, that's not how you say dear grandma, you spell it D-E-A-R. And he looks at his sister and said, I was going to write an essay about deer and how beautiful they are, what kind of animals they are. Why do you keep always criticizing me? I'm sorry, you always think I'm wrong. I'm sorry, yeah, that's your problem. The sister walks out, he rips up the letter, starts again, dear grandma, D-E-A-R, right? And here David HaMelech has no problem. He has no problem knowing Mephivosheth may say he's wrong, because he understands the shilas that come to him affect all of Klal Yisrael. Now there's a din that if all of the Sanhedrin says someone is chayiv misa, we don't give the guy misa. Why not? Because there has to be, in order to give him misa, there has to be halanas din. There has to be debate overnight. They're not going to debate. But the Inyan is weiter, says the Emunah Sitecha. There's no such a thing as someone being totally gone. No one can be pagim to the point where there's no tikkun for his neshama. It doesn't happen. That's why when we say, how much does a person get from Malkus? 40 minus 1. You can't say 39. What do you have to say 40 minus 1? The answer is because 40 is the Aboim Yoim Kaidim Yitziras of Lad, says the Chassam Sofer. 40 is the creation of the person. No one is pagim to the point where he ceases to exist. There's always a point that you can come back from. You can relight the embryo. The embryo. You always, so sometimes there are Yisurim that have to be Mevatel B'chayv. The person has to go through Misa, which is a process which cleanses his neshama. But if there's no Tzad Schus, that means even after the process of Misa, there's nothing left, that doesn't work. Then you have to redo it. It's not going to work. You play chess, right? So you got to get the guy into a checkmate. And if, let's say, you can't just trick him, got you, took your king off, right? You can't do that. Because you can't go there. The Rebbe says you can't go there. You can't go to a place where the king is going to come off. Moshe doesn't let the checkmate either. But the point is that certain things, no, everybody is chayiv, that doesn't work. That's not the process. So, the Kedusha of Purim, I want to just bring another Nakud, I know it's getting late. You know, karbonis, it's very important to say karbonis in the morning, which is very hard if you're by a shiur that night and the guy speaks a little bit too long, you have to wake up on time. But many people, the only thing they say about karbonis are 3 words. Rabbi Shmuel Ayman, okay, they say Kaddish. That's the whole karbonis. There's a process here. You know the guy that got so angry, you know, he wants to say, Haidu Rabbi Shmuel, and what's this Rabbi Shmuel? And he goes, take it out of the siddur. Take it out. He goes to the binder, takes it out, you know. He says, and then he comes to Kiddush Levana, he goes, what? You told him to take it out? Why'd you put it over here? But wherever I go, he can be Shmuel, gets in my way, you know. Now, there's a process. You say the Pasha of the Akedah, that's Mesiras Nefesh. The Kriya Shema in the morning, the Rizal says, so say Kriya Shema 4 times, once in the morning, once in the evening. The Kriya Shema in the morning, Kriya Shema Lamita. There's the Pasha of Kir that cleanses us. There's the Pasha of Oiler, it's Taira al Machshava, the Carbon Tamnid, the Ktoires, the Yud Gimel Midas Arachnim. The Rabbi Shmuel Omer is the Yud Gimel Midas HaRachamim. What's the last? And each one is a different drasha in the Torah. What's the last of the Yud Gimel Midas Arachmim? The last of the Yud Gimel Midas Arachmim is, what do we say? Well, that we know because the Tefillah finishes off. Two psukim contradict each other till the third pasuk comes and shows us the way. Right? Kaddish. Now, why does the Kodesh Baruch have to do that? Why does he have to give us 2 psukim that contradict each other and then a third pasuk comes? Just give us the third pasuk and start with and tell us what to do. Elamai, the biggest, the 13th of the Midas Arachnim, the highest level of Rachmanis comes when we live in a matzav of contradiction. Hashem, what do you want from me? There's no way I can satisfy my boss and my home. There's no way that my Yetzer Hara is burning within me. What do I do? What do I do? Where did you put me? Right? There's a story now in Tel Aviv. I heard someone got a parking, interesting parking ticket. The lady parked, and then they came and they painted around and around. They put up the handicap only sign. And then they came and they gave her a ticket. So when I came, this car wasn't here. That can't be. They took she saw it from a camera across the street that she parked before. They turned it into a handicap spot. Yeah. So I said, we say it to the Rabbi, I'm going to tell her, right? We say it to the Rabbi Shalom. Where did you park us? You parked us in the world of the Zionist. What do you want from me? The Rabbi Shalom has Rachmanis on us. But we have to go through steers. We have to go through steers in order that the 13th Midas Arachmim is only a process of going through contradictions, and then we get to the point where we have to get through. Without the 2 contradictions, we will never come straight to the third pasuk. It doesn't work that way. I'll conclude with this. When I was in Ber Shmuel, in the yeshiva, so there was a man, I imagine is already, would have to be way up there. His name was Mr. I won't use his real name. Okay, Mr. Rosen, we'll call him. Oh. Mr. Rosen came in, and he was from a certain town. He was a Baal Tshuva. He was already in his 80s. Okay, and he told us that he just became a Baal Tshuva, and he told us about his whole very interesting life. And one of the things that he did was he played college football. And this was 35 years ago, and he was in his 80s. So I guess he played for the University of Ancient Greece or something. I don't know. Maybe Notre Dame in France. I don't know. At the times of the Crusades. I don't know. But as I think of time. And he tried to learn every day. There were no Ashkol Gemaras then. And he tried to learn and tried to daven. And one day he was all frustrated at something. He came in. He said, I've had it. He closes the Gemara. The Rosh Hashiva is sitting there. He goes, what does God want from me? And he starts reckoning out all his tzaras. He had it. He starts walking out. So the Rav says to him, you used to play football? He says, yeah. He says, what was your position? I was the quarterback. Choose here. Get the quarterback. Let me hear. Get the quarterback. Yeah, Galiciana, So he goes, and what happened then? He goes, what happened? When you got the ball, what did they do? There's no patience with this road. When I got the ball, everyone jumped on me unless I passed the ball or threw it, or, gave it over to the running back. So the Rebbe, like, we realized this Rebbe must have gone to a football game afterwards. We were looking at each other. He goes, tell me, there was a man there that held the flag? He says, yeah. Did anyone ever jump on him? Generally not, unless he happened to get in the way. Because the people used to come around like this with such a tray, with a strap, and they said peanuts. I think it was mixing up baseball, football. He said, did anyone ever jump on him? No. He said, somebody brought you the water. Yeah. Anyone jumped on him? No. Why did they only jump on you? He said, because I had the ball. He said. So you want to know why you're getting it from all sides? Because you have the ball. Because the Rabbi Shem knows what you could accomplish now. Where you can go. So sometimes we're in a matzav of Shechein Shnei Ksuv Ma'mechishim Zeh. We're getting it from all sides. It says that on Purim there's a tremendous power of tefillah. On Shabbos there's a blitz of Kedushas Keser. That's Hashem's crown. Whatever that means, all din stops. I say he's free. Because Baruch Hu pardons. The whole Purim there's the Kedusha. It says every person is a Kohen Gadol. It says you can say the Kapitel Chav Beis, Tanis Esther, when you daven tomorrow. And when Esther stood there, B'chatzar HaMelech, and the king gave out the Sharvet Hazav, and it extended well before it was supposed to. The Chatzar is the Chatzar Beis HaMikdash, says the Zohar. And at Tanis Esther, we have a koyach of tefillah that is unbelievable, that we have to use for ourselves. But I want to finish with these words. They say that one day they have a whole system. They want to put the black box they have in the plane. Chas v'shalom, when the plane crashes. So what survives? The black box always survives. I have a kasha why they can't make the whole plane with the same thing they make the black box out of. Showing what take okay, but the black box always survives. And what do you see in the black box? You see the last conversation between the pilots and the date and so on. So they want to make a black box for cars. So chas v'shalom, there's an accident, they can go back and see what happened. So someone said, so we imagine as follows, right? Imagine there's a black box and we're listening to two conversations, and a car goes over a cliff. And you hear one people say, "Oh no, a cliff! Look out!" Right? That's the last thing you hear, Nebuch. Or you hear like this, "Hey guys, look at this!" That's the last word that you hear. So in a way, that's a very negative comment. Irresponsible indeed. We all have to be safe. Chas v'shalom, not to drive drunk and so on, and be safe. But think about it this way. Think about the positive side of this. There are people that say, doomsday. The people live in a doomsday matzif. It's all over. And there are people that say, Rabbi Shem, you put me into this matzif, I have the ball, you're all coming after me, I'm going right there. The koyach of Purim is to say, hey, Rabbi Shem, chas v'shalom, of course, b'derech kavod, I'm going on. I'm not giving in, I am moving on. When we have the courage to do so on Purim, it opens up Yeshuas and Simchas and Nachas that are not available to us throughout the entire year.